Hello there and welcome to episode 64 of Little Big Knits. My name is Selma and I'm coming to you from here in Ottawa, Canada, where I live with my family and our cat Yoda, not Yoda. We have got some crazy hot weather happening here, so I am in full-blown summer knits wear with sandals and clothing as light as possible because we're getting 30-degree days this week. It's supposed to cool down a little bit next week. I'm kind of hoping it does. I wasn't quite ready to switch everything over and be in complete summer mode. But that is the way things tend to roll here in Ottawa. You just never know. I think I told you a few episodes back that spring is extremely unpredictable. So we went from having, overly cold weather in spring to having overly hot weather. And although, it's very summer-like and so forth, what I find is that all the spring flowers bloom and die very quickly. Whereas it's a little bit cooler, the tulips last longer, and it's just more pleasant. I'm not quite ready. If I can't swim in a river, I don't want the hot weather. So anyway, it's going to cool down a little bit again next week, but it has provided me the possibility of wearing my summer knits as quickly as possible. That's for sure. And last weekend I did a quick switch over of winter to summer because the week was going to be very hot. So normally I would have podcasted last week, but I was feeling really tired. And that is one thing that I've been feeling a lot lately, and just needing to be a little bit more quiet. It's been a busy spring with a lot of things happening, mostly good, some just minor health issues here and there for different people in the family. So it's taken up a lot of energy, and I myself have just been feeling a little bit tired. So I didn't podcast this week. Yesterday I actually had a nap and still had a good night's sleep. So I'm feeling quite awake this morning, and hopefully I don't fall asleep during the podcast. That's very unlikely. So last time I shared with you the beginnings of an anchor sweater, and I wasn't very convinced, and I'm very grateful to all of you for wonderful comments, and I think most of you agreed that the tweed yarn that I was working with just wasn't for me. I'll show it to you later to tell you what I've decided to do. And another couple of things, just a reminder that we have a wonderful knit along or make along going on right now called the LBK Connections Mal. And this is where we make things with materials or patterns that we have been given, or make things for others. So feel free to jump into the Ravelry group, Little Big Knits, and join us for that, or use the hashtag LBKMal on Ravelry to post your pictures of what you're working on and what you finished. And I think I'll be drawing a prize in July. We'll be at the halfway mark in June, July. So I'll probably draw a prize or two for each of the threads, one in Ravelry and one on Instagram as well, to celebrate the halfway mark. So look out for that. The other thing is that the person who had won the Knit Swag mug or tumbler prize from my 15,000 giveaway a couple of episodes ago never got back to me. So I drew the prize again, and Mega of Skeins of Dreams won. So I know I contacted Mega right away, and I know that she's been in touch with Kelly of Knit Swag. So hopefully her tumbler mug is on the way, and we'll get to see it on her podcast. I don't know. We'll see. So there's a couple of things that I wanted to share with you. So I had been away for a month, I think, or 4 weeks, and I haven't actually knit, or finished, I should say, a whole lot. The one thing I have finished, and I haven't even sewn in the ends, is this pair of black socks. You've seen these before. I was slowly working on these, and I finally finished them, and they are glorious, classic black cable socks with beautiful speckling on them. Aren't they gorgeous? I really love them, and I love this yarn. So this pattern is one that I've just come up with myself, And if you look at my project page, socks for S, you'll see the stitch count for this, and then my socks for P was the original pair that I made for a friend, and those have a slightly different stitch count. So the patterns are there. I might publish something at some point for fun, but it's a very simple cable pattern, makes very classic socks. So these are done. And again, I made these on with using 4-ply, Regia Tweed 4-ply, which is a Regia yarn. Do I have the socks? Were in this lovely bag by my friend Sue of the Tangled Skein CA, and the ball band is in here. It's a Regia yarn. The colorway is 0098, and it is, oh, that's what I wanted to tell you was the composition. It's a superwash, 70% wool, 25% polyamide, and 5% viscose, which is probably the neps. They're viscose neps. I got yarn everywhere. So there you go. These socks are done and ready to wear, but not in this weather. I think they will probably wait for the fall, but they were really great. And I bought myself one of those lamps that I used a little bit, but I found that knitting in the basement, we have pot lights and the light comes right down. So that was pretty good for working on the cables on these socks. So this is the finished object that I have for you. I will share with you whips, and I'm going to try and do this in chronological order because there's kind of a reason for the way things went the way they went. So you'll recall in this bag, this Mila Sweet Makes bag that I'd gotten from Amelia a while back. There's a FedEx truck. Something is being delivered. I'll go check it out in a minute. I'll be back. It was clothing for somebody else, nothing for me. All right, and I just realized also I haven't spoken to you about what I'm wearing, so I'll do that after. I'm just going to be all over the place today. Let me talk about this first, and then I'll get back to this whip, which you may recognize. So I'm wearing today the EEK, which has 3 E's, EEEK, by Ankestrick. And this is a sweater that I made at least 5 years ago, possibly more. I'll have to put the date down there, but this has been in my wardrobe for quite a while. Hers is a solid, but I made mine as a striped sweater. And I absolutely love the neckline on this thing. It's a beautiful, beautiful design. And it's a fingering weight sweater. This was Sirdar cotton 4-ply that I had gotten in a discount bin somewhere, a fingering weight. And then the white is Sadness Garn Mandarin Petite in a white. And it's a top-down construction, really, really interesting design. This was one where you had to increase on both sides. And it was my first time trying to make ones on the wrong side. And it seems to have worked out well, but it's just got such a pretty neckline. And it's a lovely sweater that I just wear with, I often wear it with a jean skirt, actually, just to kind of or I have worn it with a white skirt to work, or a pair of white linen pants as well. It's just a lovely, lovely t-shirt. And I've worn it quite a bit over the years, and both of these yarns have lasted very nicely. So yeah, this is a top that I would definitely make again. It's got such a lovely fit, very feminine fit. This ribbing up here, and I would make it striped again. I just really enjoyed that. I have no idea how many rows. It looks probably like about 10 or 12 rows for each stripe. And yeah, I just think that the fit is very, very lovely in the shoulders and and the neckline. So this is the EEEK by Unkestrick, made what feels like eons ago. So does that make this a vintage knit? Perhaps. All right, back to this. After all kinds of interruptions, in here there is some white fluffiness. Quite a few of you were very excited about me getting on with my fairy bouquet, but I hope I don't disappoint you too much, because the fairy bouquet is going to be on a little hiatus while I get interested in other knits. But I had finished the body since our last encounter, and it was all scrunched up in the bag here, so it's not looking so great, but I have finished the body, and this is another one that just fits beautifully on top. I've tried it on, of course, and I'm very excited about this. It's just going to be very pretty. But there's not a whole lot more to say about it because I've already talked about it more than once, so I'll leave this for now. But I'll just tell you that when I finished this, I thought, oh, I'm going to start the sleeves, and I realized I didn't have mental space. There was just a lot going on, as I said at the beginning, and in order to figure out the sleeves and get back into the pattern, it was like my brain was like, nope. And I had also promised myself that when I finished the body of this, that I would knit the sleeves, but at the same time, I would start another sweater. And I swatched for a couple of sweaters, but I just couldn't seem to get myself organized to start a sweater. It was almost like it was too much. So I decided that I'm going to put this away for now, and since our weather has turned and it's not going to get cold again, it might go down a little bit, but we're going to stay in warmer weather until late September. I'm going to pick this up again in August or September, do the sleeves, and then I'll have a beautiful sweater ready for the fall. So you won't see this again till then. Stay tuned. And hopefully I'll have a beautiful fairy bouquet to show in the fall. I really look forward to it. It's going to be incredibly pretty and a beautiful knit to wear in the winter. Let's enjoy summer first. Now, one of the things that I swatched was actually with this beautiful yarn here, which are 2 skeins of Aphra yarns in her silk linen fingering that Rose had given me at Knit City, Montreal. And I'm very excited about casting this on. And I know what I want to cast on. I want to cast on the Opal sweater. Here's a black and white picture. Which is a very simple sweater designed by Emilie Vallée, who's a French-Canadian designer, and I had seen this sweater in a sample form at the Twist Fiber Festival and completely fell in love with it. And when I first got this yarn, I was going to make the Este by Justina Rokoska, but then I thought, nope, I'm going to make the Opal. So that is ready. But first of all, as I said, I just wasn't psychologically ready to cast on a sweater somehow. But also, I swatched on 3.5 millimeter needles, and I just felt like it was just a little too loose. So I'm going to swatch again on a 3.25 because I just felt like that was just a little too airy. I did the thing where you pull yarns along the back to create it more like a circular knitting, just in case my swatch would be different. If it were, or my gauge would be different if it were flat, and this is in the round, so I wanted to make sure that my swatch was right on and that my gauge was right on. But I think I want to try it with a 3.25 millimeter needle. So I swatched with that, and I swatched with something else, but I wasn't quite ready to cast on that sweater either. I have since cast it on. But in the meantime, because I wasn't quite ready, I'll show that to you in a moment, I worked on a couple of other things. I sort of have a gaggle, can we call it a gaggle of project bags here at my feet. I worked on my blanket, actually, and completed quite I did quite a bit on it, although now I'm having a hard time finding my place. There we go. I finished an entire row, this row starting here, which has some lovely colors here. I can tell you that this is Arctic Crafts yarn, this great gray, her rock garden colorway that I'd made some socks out of. I don't remember what this yellow is. If this is the Malabrigo. And I added that row. This was, I believe this was the Herblat's Regina yarn that I used for a pair of socks. And I've since started the next row as well. So I did this, which was just nice and mindless and easy. And I finished that row and started the second row while my brain took a rest and just did some very, very relaxing work. So that was great. I've sort of given myself a monthly goal of doing a row. So that first row was April. The second row was May, even though I started in April. So my goal is to finish that row this month. I'm going to aim to do a row every month. And then hopefully maybe even have this finished by the end of the summer. I need to measure. I want to make it about the length of a twin size bed. And then there will be a border as well. So I have to put it on a bed and actually see how long it is, because I haven't measured it at all. I just keep assuming it's not long enough. And then when it's long enough, I will add the border and then spend the week sewing in the ends. I know I could sew in the ends as I went along, and I know that there is a crochet method that I haven't learned yet, but I somehow just can't seem to bother doing that. And I know with the first blanket that I had made, it took me about a week. Every evening I did about a half an hour, 20 minutes, a half an hour of sewing in ends, and by the end of the week it was done. And I was quite happy with that, actually. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one. So I worked on that a little bit, and then I ended up casting on 2 pairs of socks. So the first pair of socks that I cast on, it is in this lovely bag by Alex Collins Design that you saw last podcast. And I cast on the Fairytale socks by Vicky of the, was it D19 Eco-Friendly Life Etsy shop on Etsy. And I really enjoyed making this pair of socks. Aren't they, oops, there's a little snag there. Tiny little snag in my yarn. These turned out so pretty. Really, really enjoy knitting this lace pattern. You'll remember last time when I was talking about my kevat, I said I really enjoy simple lace, and I just really enjoy making this one. So I cast on this pair of socks. And you might think, isn't that mentally challenging? That was not mentally challenging, but setting up a sweater was a little bit more mentally challenging. I have since started the second one, and I just turned the heel. And I have this weird thing that I do. I don't know if anybody else does this. Maybe I'm not alone. But I think that now that I've got into the habit of knitting socks top down with heel flaps, I will often get to the end of the heel flap and start picking up the stitches for the gusset, completely forgetting to do the heel turn. And then I realize, what is wrong with this? Oh darn, I didn't do the heel turn. And then I do the heel turn and go back. And that's what happened here. And so these kind of got put in the naughty corner a little bit, but I did the heel turn and now they're ready to get the stitches picked up again. So a really, really lovely pattern. There is a mistake in the chart. So if you are inspired to make this pattern, I suggest there's one extra stitch. If you're good at reading charts, you'll see what I mean. But the written pattern, the written instructions are clear. But there is a little mistake in the chart, and I should get in touch with Vicky and let her know that. But I figured it out, and I just really enjoy. I'll definitely make these again because I just find them to be so, so pretty. This is the Cascade Heritage yarn that I had gotten at La Maison Tricotée in Montreal, a 75 superwash merino and 25 nylon, and this colorway is 5707. I'm not sure what the name is, but they seem to have some different kinds of yellows, but this is just a very nice kind of mustard yellow. I really like this kind of yellow. And I'm really enjoying this knit. Now, I could have finished the second sock. I got a little upset because of my mistake, but also I have since started a sweater. But that was not the only sock that I started. I started another pair of socks in that time that is being housed in this bag, a bigger bag because there are two skeins. This is a bag that I made myself with remnants of Marimekko fabric that my aunt had sent me from Finland. I made this a while back. And in here is a really fun, bright spring sock. Although it looks like I'll probably be wearing them in the fall. And there's a safety pin there to mark where I was at a moment. Ta-da! This is a lovely pair of plain vanilla socks that I did again, top down, 60 stitches, 2x2 rib, I don't know how many rows, enough. And then I did a slip stitch heel there. I'm sure I forgot that and went back and fixed it, picked up, did the gusset, and got down to the bottom. So what are these two yarns? Because that's what's really spectacular. I've also just started the second one, but these are on hold, and I'll tell you why in a moment. This is yarn by Hedgerow Yarns, which I absolutely adore. She had actually dyed this for me as a custom order and had titled or had named the colorway Selma. She had a few in her shop at the time, and this is how it came out. Just a really nice speckle. And then the other contrasting yarn is the Cayenne colorway, Cayenne Pepper colorway by West Yorkshire Spinners in their signature 4-ply, which I ordered from Unraveled in Perth, Ontario. And I ended up ordering, I hadn't showed this to you, I ordered this as well as the Penny Royale colorway, which is sort of a mauvey lavender colorway. I ordered these just before going to Knit City, Montreal, because I wanted more of this yarn. I made a pair of socks out of one of their Christmas colorways. Absolutely love the feel of this yarn. It's got 35% blue face Leicester in the wool portion, and it just gives it a nice woolliness, and it gets a little fluffy with washing, and it's just really nice. So I wanted more of this in my life. And I think I could end up making another pair of those Fairytale socks out of this bright color. I think that would be really fun. But for this pair, it's becoming the heels, the toes, and the cuffs. So that is the other thing I worked on as I waited for my brain to relax a little bit and just get a bit of rest and get myself ready for a sweater. Before I tell you about that sweater, let me tell you what I decided to do with the anchors. The anchor sweater is going to go away for now. You'll recall that I just really didn't like this, and I still don't think it's a very nice color for me. I swatched with the Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino, or Merino Cotton. I'm not quite sure which way the name goes, and I don't seem to have the tag here. But I honestly don't like the gauge, and I was like, this is very white. And I don't know, my head just couldn't get around it. So for now, I don't think that this is going to become a white anchors. I might change my mind. And I also, I wasn't thrilled. This feels a little flimsy, I have to say, being used with a single ply. So I think that I think I'm using 3.25 millimeter needles. I can't quite recall. I'd have to go down at least to a 3. I think to get a nicer feeling fabric with this. And then I thought maybe I should swatch with it double-stranded and make something completely different. So no decisions are being made about this. It's just getting put aside for now. And that's the end of the anchor story at this point in time. So those, and I think I will definitely be dyeing this yarn at some point to make a color that will suit me a little better. I haven't decided what that color is, but we'll see. We'll see. There's a bit of a, because there's a bit of a yellowy, kind of greeny undertone to this. Are you seeing that? I feel like I need to be careful with the color that I choose to dye it. So we'll see. I'm not in a hurry for that because there are other things happening. And I realize I forgot to tell you. So I started the second sock on this hedgerow yarn socks. These ones here, I started the second one. And I decided to just let it be for now because I'm actually going to New York. I'm going to New York City next week on the 19th with some non-knitting friends. This is a completely non-knitting related trip. And I've decided that I'm not even going to, I know, sacrilege. I'm about to say something sacrilegious. I'm about to say that I'm not going to any yarn stores in New York on purpose. If I happen upon one, that's great. I really, really wanted to go to Pearl Soho to get some linen quill. I can order it online, but I wanted to see it in person. I'm also really intrigued by their cattail silk. But their store is not open. You can only order online. So I thought, well, there's nothing else that I really need at this point. I'd rather not buy yarn unless it was going to be those two yarns that I was very interested in. So I thought, that's fine. I'm going with non-knitting friends, dear friends of mine who we've been friends with for, one friend I've been friends with for, I mean, they're people I've known for a long time. And so it's going to be a very sort of more touristic trip. I'm hoping to go to the Guggenheim to see, there's a Vasily Kandinsky exhibit, whose work I really enjoy. We're also going to walk on the High Line, which I wanted to do the last time I was there for Vogue Knitting Live, and it just didn't happen. And I really want to go to the Ellis Island Museum, which is where immigrants arrived when they arrived to New York eons ago, when they arrived to the States on the East Coast. And then we might go to the Tenement Museum as well. So it's much more of a cultural trip and eating well with friends and having a good time walking around. So yeah, so I do need a project, and I thought I'm not going to have a lot of time to knit. We're not going to be sitting around knitting because I'm the only knitter in the group. But I thought, you know, in the evening before going to bed or on the plane or whatever. So although I started this, I think what I'll probably do is wind off about 10-15 grams of the red and just take the hedgerow skein and take this as my project to New York. So hopefully I remember to tell you everything I wanted to tell you about everything at some point. So this leads me to the other swatch. I told you that I was swatching 2 yarns, and suddenly this one, once my headspace was cleared up, I suddenly had a decision made in my mind, because originally I'd wanted to make the Breeze sweater by Pia Trans, which is a yoke sweater with a lace detail here with this yarn. But somehow something in my mind was saying I don't really want a yoke sweater with this yarn. And then I was looking at the Aphra sweater and saw, I don't remember why I was looking at this, but saw that there were some summer versions of this sweater, and I thought, that's what I'm going to do. So just so you know, this is the Aphra sweater. Normally a long sleeve winter sweater, designed by Isabel Kramer. Knit with a sport weight yarn. I think the original, or is it a finger, kind of a heavy fingering to sport weight yarn they called for. So I had swatched with some concept cotton cashmere that I had gotten with a gift certificate I was given for my birthday last year from my friend Crystal to the Stash Lounge. Stash Lounge is a shop in Calgary, I believe. And I had gotten this yarn, which Mel of the Mel Makes Stuff podcast, she talks about a lot. Well, I shouldn't say she talks about a lot, but I think she was recently swatching with it, or spoke about it on her last podcast, and had also spoken about it last year when she finished a top, and had spoken very highly of it. And I was intrigued. I'm not a big fan of cashmere, going to be honest. It's not a fiber I really look for in yarn. I find it to be, first of all, an attractor of moths. I did have a cashmere project in the living room at one point, and when I went to pick it up, it had been eaten quite a bit. It was in the corner for a long time, so it was sort of a perfect place for moths. But I've always, I don't know, it pills a lot. It's just not, it's soft, yes, but it's not something that has intrigued me very much. But when Mel talked about this, I was very curious. So I got this with the gift certificate that Crystal had given to me. So this item that I'm making will be part of the LBK Connections now, because I'm using materials that someone has given me. And that was why I created that make along, was that I wanted to be inspired myself to use up yarns and patterns that have been given to me. So I had swatched with this yarn, which is this color. It's very bright orange, and I seem to be going through a little bit of an orange phase. I'm attracted to orange again these days. I hadn't been for years, but I am again. And when my headspace cleared up and I realized this was what I wanted to make, I cast on the Aphra. It actually has quite a complicated cast on, not complicated, but there's a lot going on because it's top down. You start with one size, there's a bunch of short rows, you start with the other, and then you attach the backs, you knit to the bottom of the arms, then you go to the front, and then you have to start the lace. There's quite a bit going on. It is quite involved. But I started this about a week ago, perhaps, last weekend. And I have really enjoyed working on this. And I will be making it as it's going to be a drop shoulder. It's going to come to about where these sleeves are, actually. And I am going to probably just add ribbing. I might add a tiny bit of stockinette stitch in the round and then ribbing and make it a short sleeve top. I am very, very excited. This lace pattern is very addictive. Absolutely love it. And looking forward to having this. I have knit about 3 inches down the body. So I have about another 7 to go before I start doing ribbing, perhaps. I'll see, I'll try it on as I go to make sure that it's the length that I want, but really, really, really enjoying working on this. Very much enjoying this yarn. The cashmere, of course, adds just a touch of softness to the cotton. So there's a buttery silkiness to it. I am enjoying working with it, and I'm curious to see how it wears. I've heard that it wears well. So yeah, I'm enjoying this. It's going to be a bright pop color in my wardrobe for the summer. Totally opposite from this calmness. But yeah. So I am knitting these on, I think, 3.5 millimeter needles. My gauge was a little bit looser than the pattern called for. I believe it called for 24 and I am getting 22. So I ended up knitting the second size, and I think it's going to have a nice amount of ease. So yeah, So I hope that the next time I podcast, this will be finished. Because I'm certainly enjoying knitting on it, although I don't think I'll take it to New York with me. I think I'll just take the sock, a small, easy knit, probably. Also just taking carry-on, so I don't want anything that's going to take up too much space. So, my goodness, I think that's all my knitting. So I'll just share with you a couple of acquisitions in the last month. Things that have come into my life. First, I received a lovely, lovely gift from my friend Amy, who is Amos GW on Instagram, and Amy and I have been friends for a little while now. We were at a retreat together in 2019. And she had wanted to give this to me at the next retreat, I believe, but it didn't happen because of COVID. So she sent this package to me, which arrived this last month, with 2 pouches. And they both have these really, really fun cat stitch markers. They're so hilarious. I love those. And these 2 pouches that are based on drawings by Franklin Habit. So very, very cool. Excellent Notions pouch. So there you see his name. And Franklin Habit is I think he's an author, illustrator, knitter. I think he designs as well. Knitting personality. So yeah, so these came from Amy. Thank you so much, Amy. It's just such a lovely, lovely donation to the podcast you give to me. It feels like the middle of July. The heat is lifting. I'm bloody hot. So I had to stop there for a moment. But yeah, that was the first thing that came into my life. And I just want to tell you, while it's in my mind, that in June, Little Big Knits is celebrating 5 years, a 5-year anniversary. So I will be doing definitely a prize. I've got a couple of prizes lined up, and one of these pouches will be part of one prize, and then there will hopefully be another one as well. So look out for that. I'll announce that giveaway, well, next time I podcast. We've got a lot going on. As I said, I'm going to New York next week. The week after that, I will probably be spending a lot of time in the vegetable garden. I've concluded I'm not a very good gardener. I'm just not a very good gardener. I'm good with houseplants. My houseplants are very happy houseplants. But I have a vegetable garden that's not in my backyard, that's at an allotment garden. And some things do really well. We grow all our garlic at this point. And we have a blackcurrant bush, a gooseberry bush, some flowers. We had sorrel, but somebody stole our sorrel, which I'm a little bit upset about, so we're going to have to plant some more, and some rhubarb. We have some flowers, but often our vegetables don't grow that well, and we don't have the greenest of thumbs. Our garlic does fabulously. Everybody always talks about how great our garlic is. So anyway, that weekend I'll probably be spending a lot of time in the garden. And then the 2 weekends after that, my friend Kate of the Hawthorne Cottage Craft, she hasn't podcasted in a while, but you've heard me mention, I think I talk about her probably every episode. She is coming for a visit. And she arrives on the 31st of May, and on the first weekend, she and I are going off to Montreal. And then on the second weekend, we will be heading towards the Kawarthas, going to the Kawartha Yarn Festival, which is June 11th, in case you're in the area. And then spending a little bit of time in Prince Edward County. So we'll see when I'm able to podcast, but sometime in the next month, I do hope to see you. So I'll be doing the prize at that point for the 5-year podiversary. So another thing that was also given to me was a lovely viewer, and I'm not sure if you want to be mentioned, so I won't mention you, but a lovely viewer gifted me the pattern, the DRK Everyday Sweater, which I mentioned last podcast. I had bought some Sonder Yarn DK, and sorry, my hair is flying around because I brought the speaker closer because it was just like the heat is really lifting here. It's getting quite hot. So I look like, you know, my hair is wisping everywhere. It is because the fan is closer. I think we haven't turned on the air conditioning yet, but I think it's going to have to get turned on soon. So I showed this pattern to you last time. I had gotten Sonder Yarn DK to make it, and then a lovely viewer just gifted to me after the podcast, so thank you so much. That is a plan for September, October. I'm hoping to cast that on. I'm already planning my fall knits, and I haven't even gotten through my summer knits yet. And I haven't actually planned. This is what I do. I plan, and then those things may or may not happen. But I just have fun planning. So I've planned summer knits, but now we'll see what actually ends up happening. So anyway, thank you so much for that pattern gift. That was really, really nice. And that'll be part of the LBK Connections now when I cast it on. And then 2 purchases. First, the most recent Lina came out. Edition number 14, summer 2022. And it's a winner. Really, really beautiful. The last couple, I think, didn't inspire me as much somehow, but this one just totally inspired me. There are several sweaters in here that are totally knit-worthy. So to start with this one, which is knit in Holstgarn Super Soft, just very, very pretty sweater. The shawl is really nice. There is this sweater, which is the Vespertine, it's called, and it's actually knit in yarn by Aphra, by Rose, in her BFL DK. Lovely stitch pattern on it, using 2 colors. So many, many pretty sweaters in this one that I absolutely had to buy it. There's this very interesting cardigan with interesting details, embroidery or color work, I should say, intarsia of some kind on the sleeves. Just this super duper fun one, which is kind of like a slip stitch striped pattern. So yeah, I had to get this one. There was just no choice. There was also this really lovely shawl, although it's being it's being modeled in a funny way, but just a really lovely, simple sort of, not half circle, but, you know, kind of a longer shawl. And then there's this little vest cardigan that I really feel like I need in my life. So there are just so many beautiful patterns, and it's one that I have to partake. And then the other thing that I had seen, and I thought, oh, that looks really beautiful. When I walked into the store, Wabi Sabi, my local yarn store, and they actually had it, I looked at it and I just picked it up. It's this tome, the new book by Mayu KP. Mayu is a Finnish knitting designer, makes beautiful designs of all kinds, and she put out this book called Contrasts. And it is so full of gorgeous, gorgeous patterns. But there were 3 or 4 patterns that really did it for me. This one was for one, this all-over lace pattern, which she has in 3 different versions in the book. It's called The Dreamy Road. She's got it here as a short sleeve version and here in another color. And she is using some sort of, I don't actually know what yarn she's using. 2 yarns knit together, La Bien-Aimé's Kumo, which is a baby suri, and La Bien-Aimé's Helix, which is a merino Gotland wool. So it's a double stranding of 2 lightweight wools. So that one really called me. The other one that I just totally fell in love with was one called Dijon. And where is Dijon? It's here. Dijon, because of the color. I really love the cabling on here and the saddle shoulders. So that was another one that I was like, ooh, I really, really, really like that. But the book is full of really gorgeous sweaters. And then the other one that really called me was this one called Pearly Beach. And it's a fingering weight sweater with beautiful cables and lace on it. So yeah, it's a stunning book with so many beautiful patterns. Those ones just happen to be the ones that really called me. This one is also really beautiful. And there are accessories as well. And then there's this cardigan. This cardigan with a hood. It's just full of absolutely stunning designs. It's a beautiful, beautiful publication put out by the Line people, so you know that the quality of the paper and the pictures and the way it's put together are just stunning. So yeah, I picked it up. So that is essentially the knitting content of this episode. I feel like did I rush through? I hope you've been able to keep up with me. Drinking out of my Nicholas Moss, right? It was Nicholas Moss mug that my friend Kate had brought me, I think the first time she visited. And I think now she's coming for the 4th time. Is it? Jeez. I don't know. I'm very excited. I think she's very excited. We're very excited. Very much looking forward to that. And before that, New York. So the next month is going to be a very exciting month. First trip out of the country in 2.5 years. The last trip I did was to Ireland, actually, in November of 2019. And so that's exciting. And then having her here is going to be really, really lovely. So I will just end off with a podcast corner, mentioning some of the podcasts that were mentioned a few episodes ago when I had the giveaway for the 15,000 subscribers. So there's some here that I've learned about because of that list. Actually, except for one of these, all of these were, well, no, not all of them. Most of them were mentioned by viewers, by you guys, more than once. So one was Filena, and I'll put the names here. Filena is a podcast that is hosted by Felicia, who is a civil rights lawyer living in Washington, D.C., I believe. And I really enjoy her podcast. I really enjoy the pacing. I like how she talks about stuff. And I like the makes that she makes. So I've watched 3 episodes so far, really enjoying it. The other one is with Trisha, a Best Day Ever podcast. Trisha is just a lovely person and talks about different things. So sometimes she talks about scrapbooking, or there's some sewing and knitting. So she's another lovely person. Ruth Loves to Knit. I've gotten to know Ruth a little bit since then, but that is a podcast that appeared on the list as well. And Ruth is a lovely person with the gift of gab and just really enjoyable. Knit Inc. also mentioned a lot in that list, and also hosted by Petra and Natasha. I've gotten to know Petra a little bit and watched their episodes, mother and daughter. They don't live in the same city. I cannot remember. One lives in Connecticut and one lives somewhere else, near Boston perhaps. And so they don't see each other all the time, but they get together every once in a while and podcast and put out a lovely podcast together as mother and daughter. Another one that came up a lot was What I Knit for Love. And this is hosted by Willimin. She is a Dutch knitter, but the podcast is in English. And I've only managed to watch one, but it was very nice. And she had some really interesting knits and a lovely aesthetic. So, and I think she also talks a lot about gardening as well. Maybe I should listen to her more and try to improve my gardening. Another one that I want to mention, also Dutch, is It Is a Sarah. Sarah is adorable and just a really whimsical kind of knitter. She podcasts in both Dutch and English. And she was actually mentioned by a couple of podcasters, I think. And I went and checked her out. And she only recently started podcasting in English. Originally, she podcasted solely in Dutch. And I think she feels a little insecure about her English, but she's an absolute joy to listen to, and I really enjoy her knits a lot. Another person I'm going to mention, because she mentioned me on her podcast, and this is Seven Knits. Seven Knits happened to mention me because of the ranunculus, perhaps. I get mentioned a lot because of the ranunculus. I wonder why. But her podcast is in German, and I can't seem to access subtitles on YouTube. I haven't quite figured out how. If you happen to know, please feel free to tell me below. But she has a German podcast. So if you're looking for a German podcast, her podcast is called 7 Minutes. So that is it for the knitting podcast today and for the knitting podcast corner. So yeah, I have my gaggle of knitting bags around me, and I hope I haven't whipped through them too quickly. Speaking of a gaggle, you will see footage of geese, because there are gaggles of geese. One great thing that has happened because the weather has been warmer is that I have been able to take out my e-bike. I got an e-bike, an electric bike, last year for my birthday. It's not actually a separate bike, it's my bicycle, but we got a contraption to put on it called a switch, SWYTCH. It's a product that comes out of the UK, and it's basically you get a tire that has a contraption in it that you add on to your bicycle with a contraption where you put the battery and so forth, and it turns your bicycle into an electric bicycle. And this is a gift for me for my birthday last year. It only arrived in like late October, so I never really got to use it last year. So I was so excited to get it out. And I have a very bad knee because of an accident I had many years ago, and I had surgery on my knee. And over the last 3-4 years, and I love riding my bicycle, but my bicycling has dwindled down to very local because it would just bother my knee. And so I've been riding the e-bike. My knee is very happy. Of course, I'm not using as much energy, but I still am. And I have ridden to work a couple of times. And along the river is my route. And along the river, there are lots of geese and there are lots of goslings. So that has been such a joy. Riding my bicycle to work in the morning. One morning, it was just about as spectacular as could be. It was bright and sunny and lovely weather. It was coolish, but perfect for riding my bicycle. And the sightings of birds that morning was just amazing. I looked out at my back and there was a cardinal. There's often a cardinal in my backyard. In fact, there were 2 cardinals. I looked at my kitchen window. There was a woodpecker. I don't know what kind it was, but it's got a little red crest. I don't think it's the pileated though. It's a small one. Outside my kitchen window, and then there was some sort of little falcon outside my front door. And then I rode my bike to work, and there were goslings along the way. So, and shimmering water, and it was just so incredible. So that has been a very joyful moment for me, is bringing out my bicycle. So you'll see lovely footage of goslings and some other animal sightings. It has been, because it's been warm, the animals been out, and we saw some wonderful turtles and wood ducks and other animals too along the walks. So I'll leave you with some of that footage. And next time I see you, I will hopefully have a finished Aphra. I will hopefully have cast on the Opal sweater and be planning the next thing. We'll see. Until then, take care, and we'll see you.
stars have come in close just to see you, I suppose, and they're a-gleaming. You must be dreaming, and the sun has said goodbye with a twinkle in his eye. He's left the ocean with sweet emotion. We go dancing in the rain, riding on a midnight train, away so slowly, and the moon is looking down on the sleepy side of town, and he's so lonely. I love you only. I love you only. All the birds have taken flight. It's their favorite time of night, when they can hear you from somewhere near you. And the palm trees try to bend to be closer to their friends. They're made of magic. Reach out and grab it. We go dancing in the rain, riding on a midnight train, away so slowly, and the moon is looking down on the sleepy side of town, and he's so lonely. I love you only. I love you only. I love you only. And the moon is looking down on the sleepy side of town,